One of the most common questions you'll get as a reader is what another person is thinking or feeling, what their experience is like. Because in some matters, you can't ask a person what their true feelings are because maybe they won't tell you. So tarot is a great way to help us find out about the state of things beyond ourselves. And we can use it to find out what other people are thinking and feeling in general or in specific. So today we're going to do a demonstration on how to do a Celtic Cross spread with that specific idea in mind. So let's get, per usual, I plan out my Celtic Cross, and today we're going to use the Thoth Deck. So the Thoth Deck, if you aren't familiar with it, this was the one created by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris, and it, if you have used it, you know that it has a different kind of intelligence to it, and it's pretty powerful. So for a matter like this, where you really want to find out once, what the true essence of a person's feelings about something is, this would be the way to go. And this one also accelerates destiny, so it can really kind of bring things up to the surface faster. So that in mind, let's get to it. Gonna map this out. So let's talk through the card positions. First thing we'll do is I'm going to write down what is going on with, and then you put your subject's name in there. I would. For now, for anonymity, I'm going to keep it blank, but in my brain, I'm going to name that. Okay. So sometimes there's something going on with someone that you can sense is off, but you don't know what it is. So card position 1 and 2, who they are and what they are doing. This should tell you if your spread's right. Same with, oh wait, we'll get to that in a sec, but card position 3, this is the basis. Why are they like this? Card position 4, recent past. So this could be some event that is fading out of influence where you had an interaction with this person. And this is for you, for your verification. So if these 3 cards work together and make sense, then you know the rest of this is to be trusted. And this isn't likely to be shared with the other person, right? So this is just for your purposes when you want to know what's going on with a person that you know or don't know very well. This is a good way to kind of figure out what it is that you can't exactly pin down about them. Card position 4, oh sorry, we went through that one. Card position 5, so their current thinking. As it relates to you. This should be the spicy one, because if they have any particular feelings about you, this will be the area that comes out. So tentative futures, card position 6. So whatever their plans are, if the status quo is maintained, what you could expect to see for them. Card position 7, how they see themselves. This one's pretty standard. And then how other people see them. This can be helpful if you're, is it just me in your mind, right? Like you might think, am I the only person that has this weird interaction or this strange feeling? That can help tell you if you are alone in that. Their innermost emotions is card position 9. Can also be motivation, so I'll put slash motivations. And then that'll we'll kind of know if it meshes with their current thinking. And then finally, where might they be in 6 months? Okay, so now we've got this mapped out, put it to the side, put a cap on the pen, get down to shuffling. Okay, we're shuffled, we're ready to cast. I'm just going to move this out of the way here. First card, Queen of Discs, crossed by the Fool. From the bottom of the deck, our bases, Two of Swords, card position 3, Art, reversed, card position 5, Death, card position 6, Prince of Wands in reversal, card position 7, Six of Cups, card position 8, the Nine of Cups, card position 9, Five of Wands, and finally card position 10, 10 of Coins, or discs, I guess. Discs are the Pentacles suit in this deck. All right, so first thing you'll want to do is start to get your your feelings of these. So before you start going through your memory bank of meanings, what you're going to do is you're going to sit with the cards and you can stare at each one, and the art on this particular deck is very captivating. You could spend a long time meditating on every one of these cards. So what you'll want to do is do that. And then when you're ready to begin your analysis, there's some books that you might consider very helpful for this. This one, this one, this one, this one's pretty helpful, especially if you like to cross-reference with other systems. And then, of course, this one. I'll put a mention of these in the description as well, in case you wanted to look those up. So yeah, this part is going to take a little while because we're going to sit with them, get our read on them, and then I'm going to put them up on screen and we'll walk through them together.
Here's our spread up on screen, and we will go through each one of these. I do want to mention that if there is a person you know or have encountered that you feel compelled to find something out about, it is completely okay to ask tarot. So many clients that call in for readings want to know what someone else is thinking or doing as it relates to them, and that's okay to tell them. This is a tool of discovery and truth. So if you want to know something and the universal intelligence agrees to tell you, it will. And there's nothing unethical about asking to know more. However, you need to think about what you would do with this knowledge that you're given. So if you use what you learn to harm someone truly unprovoked, that's unethical. Also, if you're not meant to know, you will not be told. It is just that simple. Go ahead and ask. If you have destructive intentions for the spread, proceed with extreme caution. So if you're familiar with the Thoth deck, you know that every image is a world unto itself, yet no cards are totally isolated. They have interactions with each other, and we'll get into that in later cards. But to start, I want to point out that in the Thoth, the Fool is described as the spirit of the ether. He's the first of the deck, yet his number is 0. And he's the beginning and the end. He represents, he's a statement of something being nothing. So he's anchored in midair, held firmly by absolutely nothing at all. So in most interpretive guides, the Fool represents those new beginnings, new journeys, new opportunities, and faith. With a Thoth, every card takes on a multitude of esoteric workload. So we can add the encircling spirals around that figure, being, representative of cycles of being and not being, death and growth, knowing and unknowing that are surrounding this figure. And if we bring this down to a feeling, it becomes way more complex than the Smith Rider-Waite's fool's optimistic, happy-go-lucky demeanor. The image of this fool contains madness as well, the feeling that can accompany us when we're not tethered to something. The beginning of a process can be maddening and frightening, while also being exhilarating and freeing. The subject, based on my observations, knowledge, and interactions, is confirmed by this card in that he is a salesperson that I work with. So a big part of his job is to create business from nothing, to create material gain from cold calls, and chasing strangers. Further, he is always going in numerous directions with no anchor or foundation. With only a few sales in the several years we've worked together, he's chasing everything but getting nothing, which is a maddening state of being. He's trying to get the attention of the Queen of Discs, a figure that denotes an environment. She is the business world. She represents the chain of commerce. She holds the wealth and power that she's accumulated. She is the decision maker that can consent to receiving what is offered and giving payment in return. He wants to generate wealth and success for himself by drawing from her. She looks away, unmoved by his efforts. This verifies that we've cast the right cards, because we're seeing a truthful reflection of the situation. Don't always be influenced by the keyword on the Thoth cards. This card says peace, but what comes to mind for us when we try to visualize peace is not really what it's conveying in this case. The crossing of swords usually comes before peace. This card is ruled by the moon in Libra and has a connection to the high priestess with that lunar energy. Why this person fights so hard and gets nothing is coming from somewhere early in their life, conditioning that caused them to feel like everything was competitive. I do know that they have some insecurities related to their physical abilities, and that can often drive a person to make up for what they believe or were made to feel were deficient areas of themselves. The depth of that insecurity of a person's worth creates this balancing effort, which Libra's very good at helping with. Where the swords meet is that place of tension, where we have to maintain equilibrium. This person has spent their life trying to be different versions of themselves to suit the person they're speaking to, like wearing a lot of masks. We wear different personas depending on our audience. So this is not a criticism of the subject's character, it's just one explanation of how their nature was formed and how that influences their reactions and actions in this case, in this spread. Reversals are really not as much of a thing with the Thoth deck, but since I like reversals, I keep them just as they are, and I use their dignities to flavor the meaning, or maybe give an accent to a spread. Also, the Thoth deck does not have a temperance card, but the art card takes its numbered place. That does not mean they are equivalent, but they do share qualities, one of which is alchemy and that concept of fusion. How does this relate to a real world recent past? Well, if he's a salesperson that does work, and I'm the person that does the work that he sells, he and I work together on the same thing, but from different directions. Our interactions mostly include talking about what the successful outcomes of a project were and how we can find more projects like that. We also go on sales calls together where we have different functions, but we work toward the same goal. In this place, Art is describing how he and I work together and co-create strategies. He's also a Sagittarius, and that is the astrological influence of this card. He has a lot of fiery energy and wants to chase everything. I'm ruled by Saturn, and as such, I'm good at being a wet blanket for what I consider to be, not good business targets. These energies together should produce a good result, but they're not really doing that because he doesn't listen to me. Some people don't look at the past results to shape future actions, and that's a frustration on my part. That's how it's being reflected here. So that was a long way to say it. This card is spot on for this situation. Not many people might be as flattered to be considered death by someone else, but in this card I am weirdly honored. First of all, I've been there for decades, so I've endured all manner of business events and I'm still standing. I also built up some social equity and happen to know a lot of people, and knowing lots of people is really helpful to salespeople. So, in one respect, he thinks of me as a useful contact who may be able to help him connect with others. I'm also planning to be there for a long time to come, so he may also think I'm as unescapable as death. On the other hand, this card brought me the smell of fish and decay, so I can't be sure if I didn't leave at one point or another some impression that wasn't that great. My favorite way this card relates comes from Milo DuQuette's book, where he writes, quote, "The death card of the Thoth Tarot is the antithesis of those found in traditional pacts. This is no stiff Grim Reaper standing on earth, indiscriminately mowing down people, young and old, humble and highborn. This death is vivacious and flexible. He wears the crown of Osiris and dances madly on the bottom of the sea. Instead of mowing down the living, he uses his scythe to stir up bubbles of new lives from the seemingly dead and decaying sediment." Without going into too much detail, my work does involve digging up information that was discarded and turning it into something valuable. So there is a little tiny bit of a parallel. And I can turn his efforts at selling projects into money. So if he thinks of me as an agent of transformation, that's good enough for me. This is a risky card position because you don't know what will pop up here. What if it was a card showing a negative or critical view of the seeker? That might make things awkward. So proceed with caution. Do you really want to know what they really think of you? Card position 6. So having a Prince of Wands in its reversal here speaks to a blocked ability to succeed at a mission. This is not surprising because sales itself and chasing leads in every direction takes a lot of time. I read this card as kind of showing us the status quo for the tentative future, in that not a lot's going to materialize, and there will be a continued buildup of frustration that I don't know what he's going to do with. He seems like a very chill, controlled personality outwardly, but you can tell there's something magma like churning under the surface. They see themselves as a person who's confident that their unique approach will work. It just needs more time. They've invested so much energy into making what they think is the perfect calculated approach that just needs to be vindicated. It just needs to work once. Here's the problem though, it's not happening. Since we can blend this card, card position 7, with card position 3, the basis card, and card position 9, the innermost emotions card, we're putting pleasure, strife, and peace together, which is way too simple an equation, but those are the names on the cards. The moon in Libra with card position 3 is a tension. Strife in card position 9 is a vexatious card. And then here, even though the card says pleasure, we have to remember that since reversals were not designed in Thoth to convey how the card behaves, we have to use what's called dignity. That means we look at surrounding cards to tell us if the meaning of the Six of Cups has a positive tilt or a challenging one. I sense a more inflated sense of self and an overconfidence in one's abilities that's just not backed up by results. It's almost like he's starting things, but then the wheels fall off, and then he feels like he's always dusting himself off to try again. Blended with card position 3 and 9, this is an ongoing battle of will, where he keeps trying to apply peaceful acceptance on a pot of boiling frustration. Again, don't be fooled by the keyword on this card. Indeed, this card does come up for wishes fulfilled and success, but it is in card position 8, so we have to look at it through that lens. If you're a salesperson who's not making sales, would others view your work well? Maybe not from a financial perspective. They do view him as kind and lovable, but he thinks too big sometimes, and it keeps him from collecting easier to reach targets. If we made a list of companies we wanted to work with, he'd choose the one of the biggest, with the most gatekeepers, the toughest procurement people, and the most obstacles, just because they might have a big prize inside. There is energy to chase, but it's not directed properly. Eventually, our overlords will want their cups refilled, and they may be losing patience with the lack of flow. Is there anything more frustrating Then Saturn in Leo. Saturn's not impressed by Leo's zeal and bravado. Saturn makes the energy bitter. The other salespeople are well established and are even able to turn away new work because they are no longer hungry, metaphorically. Now, our subject is not as well established, doesn't have the charm required to get a deal past the first couple interactions. He has faith that his method is the right one, yet it doesn't work. But instead of changing his approach, he just keeps doing the same things the same way. This is the frustration and anger and conflict in themselves. Since this card works with CP5, I'm somehow involved here. I don't compete with this person, but I do try to counsel them to go after things that I think will have a really good chance at working out. After all, I need success as well with my projects. He asks for advice a lot, doesn't seem to follow it, so in this respect, I'm not the source of this feeling, but I am related to it. There is not much any of us can do about how another person feels if we didn't do anything to hurt them. So I'll put this information in my pocket and keep doing my best to help where it makes sense to do so. There are two different ways we can look at with this. We can go with the card's fortunate interpretation and say that it looks like he's going to land himself a big break and validate himself in a dramatic way, and it will be high fives all around. That is definitely one way to look at this card. The other way, since Thoth Deck cards show the light and the shadow at the same time, it could be showing us the culmination of that stagnation, where the other salespeople have hoarded the best clients and their success secrets and kept his progression suppressed. People sometimes develop an enlarged ego, and it sours their ability to elevate others, because doing so might reduce their value somehow. If you're reading this and you feel like a card is tilting in a direction, that is the direction to follow. In this case, I felt like there's a dragon hoarding gold and keeping it weighed down and inaccessible. If you look closely, even the discs on the card are bending from the weight. I think the next 6 months will be the same as the last 6 months, and it might result in a confrontation that favors our subject. He may get some helpful intervention from the higher ups that hired him in order to quell the frustration and encourage more signings. After all, if they hired someone that fails, that reflects poorly on them as well. My main takeaway as someone who has curiosity around the inner world of others is that I can choose to be helpful or not. My default is helpful, but I too feel frustration when I'm giving someone genuinely good guidance that's backed up by results and they decline to act on it. I might get a Smith Rider-Waite deck and do a follow-up 3-card spread to find out how I could be better in this situation. And I say Smith Rider-Waite just because it's a bit better at giving directions than Thoth. Thoth gives us a view of a person's core, which is what I wanted to know first. Thoth will tell you on no uncertain terms what the brutal truth is, and it doesn't pull its punches. I love it. No matter what deck you go with, my best advice is to map out your spread. There's a link in the video description to a printable Celtic Cross layout that you can print off and use. It's a good way to focus your intentions as you shuffle, because you can keep looking at the card positions to reinforce what it is you really want to get from them. Cards 1, 2, and 4 will tell you if you have the right cast. If you're reading into another person, these should be things that you can say are correct or not. Once more before we finish, use what you learn carefully. Any tool can be used for good or bad purposes. Tarot is absolutely no different. If you're digging up dirt on someone and plan to use it against them when they didn't cause you any harm, you take full responsibility for that. If you're using this to help inform how you interact with someone in the future or trying to enhance your empathy as it relates to them, then this is a solid use case for that. So I just got an idea for another spread demo, so I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in another video.